Alright guys, I'm back with the third part of the Q&A. Where was I? Fallen Attitude. Do you think Batista will ever return? I heard something about him saying he won't come back until WWE is done with the PG era. Also, do you know when Big Andy, the winner of Tough Enough, a few years ago, will debut in WWE if he still is? Well, Andy from Tough Enough has been fired. And I could see Batista returning to do something kind of like The Rock's done, where he comes back for a few months or something like that. I don't know if he would ever come back full time. Batista was already older when he got his big push. And now he seems to be doing movies and wanting to do MMA and all types of stuff like that. So I really don't think Batista would come back. And plus, I don't see the Attitude Era or WWE dropping the PG era anytime soon. So by the time they do drop it, it'd probably be like years later. So maybe he'll come back for a Rock type deal. What do you think? What do you like better out of the wrestling shows you watch? Do you think John Cena will ever go back to his Thugonomics gimmick? Probably not. I know that John Cena kind of did a little Thugonomics thing when he was feuding with The Rock for last year's WrestleMania, but I don't think he will ever go back to that gimmick entirely, even if he did turn heel. And my favorite wrestling show, it's really tough because I don't like to compare the shows. So with WWE, I try not to compare it to TNA, and I try not to compare them to Ring of Honor. I do enjoy the Ring of Honor show because it's only an hour, and there's a lot of wrestling, good wrestling in that hour. But sometimes TNA can do a show that's got a lot of wrestling that week that I really enjoy, and it kind of changes. There's no show I really just look forward to more than the others. Brent William Henry. My webcam's acting goofy again, so I'm trying not to get too close to the screen. Brent William Henry, what is the most frightening urban legend or scary story you have ever heard in your lifetime? Scary story or urban legend? I mean, I think we've all heard the one about the hook, where the hook was on the car door, and the one where I think it was a blind person always leaves their hand next to the bed, and the dog licks their hand, and that's how they know everything's okay. And then, or maybe they're not blind. No, they're not. But they leave their hand next to the bed, and the dog licks it, so they know everything's fine. And then in the morning, they get up, and the mirror is covered in blood. The dog's hanging dead in the shower, and it's written in the mirror is dogs aren't the only things that can lick hands or something like that. I just remember those from when I was a kid, but I really like scary stories from stuff that could possibly be true. Like I have this book called Unexplained Mysteries, and it's like a prized possession of mine. I read this book when I was in elementary school. I saw it at the public library, and it just freaked me the hell out. And later on in high school, I was telling a friend of mine about it, and he said, I have that book. And he gave it to me. So I love this book. It's just full of newspaper articles on every single thing paranormal, and it's just tons and tons of stories. And some of them are really freaky. Like there's one about these kids that are possessed, and they started drawing faces on their wall, and they would communicate with the faces. So the parents are like, what the hell's going on with these kids? And then eventually they started getting all contorted and stuff. And just really awkward, painful positions. So that was a really creepy one. And another one that was really random that I've always just remembered is a guy was driving down the road, and he ran into a line of people dressed in black robes like druids. And as they started to surround his car, he just drove away. But I always thought that was a really creepy story too. But there's tons and tons in this book. But those are the two I remember the most. Freakin' Boy 10. Who's your favorite character from Always Sunny? Oh my god, that is very difficult because I love all the characters. A few years ago, I think someone asked me and I said Frank. I think Frank is just batshit crazy. And really, when they were doing a lot of storylines with Frank, it was just awesome. He would always pull the gun out randomly, and he's a great character. I know a lot of people actually prefer the show before Frank joined the cast, or Danny DeVito, but I love Frank. I think he adds a lot to the show. Who's your favorite character from The Walking Dead? I was a big fan of Merle, but I mean, I know everybody says Daryl, and I have to go with Daryl. He seems to be the most level-headed, and he can get everything done that they need. Oh, and Glenn. Glenn's awesome too. What's your biggest WWE markout moment? I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I really liked when Kane first showed up and attacked The Undertaker, ripped the cell door off. Stuff with the NWO when the NWO first arrived in WCW. Terry Funk as Chainsaw Charlie was a really cool moment because I was really big into death matches. Some of the stuff Steve Austin did, throwing the belt into the river. South LA 1000. In your opinion, was the Ruthless Aggression era a good or bad era, and why? Do you think TNA will be #1 wrestling company like many people say? No, I do not. I think TNA has a very long way to go to even be able to compete with WWE, and they would never be able to surpass them. And if there was the slightest chance that they could, we're talking maybe 10, not even 10, 15, 20 years down the road. I thought Ruthless Aggression era was okay. For a lot of that, I kind of fell out of wrestling and I wasn't watching it like I used to. After WCW closed and ECW closed, it was cool for a while to see all these guys in WWE, but then they weren't really doing as much with them as they could, so it was really disappointing to me. And there was some good stuff though, like Edge and the Rated R stuff, but I think it was a fine era. Still better than PG. Michael Myers, enjoy the channel and the horror movie reviews. The question I want to ask, will you ever do a horror movie review of the original Halloween? Not just the original, but the others as well. Yeah, I definitely plan to do Halloween in the future. That's one of the biggest. I mean, you got Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, which I did. Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, it's right up there with those. Also, seeing that you enjoyed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Tobe Hooper, will you consider doing the original Salem's Lot as well? It's a long movie, but as a horror movie fan, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I'll probably do something on that in the future. If I'm doing movies that aren't a series like I did with Jeepers Creepers, I'll try to combine them. But when I'm doing like a horror series, I try to keep it to where it's a series that has at least 3 movies. But if it's a short series or something, I'll throw something like Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 on there. Just Run in LA. Hi, I'm a big fan of Ring of Honor, but I've never seen one episode of it. I was wondering, how do I watch it? Well, I get it in my area. So if you don't get it in your area, and well, go to the Ring of Honor website first to see if you get it in your area and when it comes on. But if you don't get it in your area, you can watch it through the website. I don't know if you have to pay. I hope not, because that's ridiculous. But they usually put episodes on the YouTube channel also, and I know there's some up there. So if you just want to check out a few episodes, you can always go to the Ring of Honor YouTube channel, and they've got episodes, they've got old matches, they've got some cool stuff on the YouTube channel. What are your thoughts on WWE not having the Briscoe brothers, #DimBoys, because they're not cosmetically pleasing? I think it sucks because it's a ridiculous reason not to hire the Briscoes, who were awesome wrestlers, great on promos, just very entertaining. all around, and all the other wrestlers agree. Like, no one can figure out why the Briscoes aren't there, and for them to stay cosmetically pleasing when they have tons of funk is absurd. So I really don't know what's up with the whole Briscoes cosmetically pleasing thing. The only thing I can think of about the Briscoes that's a turnoff for WWE is they have those weird tattoos all over them. And I do think that kind of holds them back. And I know it sounds shallow as hell, but I could see WWE thinking that's kind of not something we want to put on TV. Who do you think was the better tag team in Ring of Honor, Briscoes or Kings of Wrestling? Kings of Wrestling was great. I mean, they had all the talent you could ask for in a tag team in the ring. And the Briscoes are really talented too. But I would have to go with the Briscoes just because they're my personal favorite. And they've been there since day one. If you had a gun to your head and was forced to watch two women wrestle for an hour, which two would you like to see wrestle? I guess Trish Stratus and Lita. I don't really like watching two men wrestle for an hour. So, although that Drake Younger Sami Callihan Iron Man match was the shit in CZW last year. That was awesome. How did Kane set JR on fire? It wasn't real, was it? No, it wasn't real. I think he poured gasoline on him and struck a match. It was pretty funny, actually. If you had to put two guys on commentary for Raw, SmackDown main event, and TNA, who would you pick? You can pick anyone that's alive. And if you had to pick one woman to do commentary, who would you pick and why? A female for commentary? Veda Scott, I guess, from Ring of Honor. She's not the best on the mic, but you can tell she really cares about wrestling, and especially female wrestling. She's really enthusiastic about it, and I think that translates well. So I'd go with Veda Scott. And for Raw, JR and the King. For SmackDown, Michael Cole and Booker T. For main event, Brad Maddox and William Regal, maybe. And for TNA, Mike Tenay and Jeremy Borash. Isaiah1231 CPNYC. What would you say to people that say, "Oh, you watch wrestling? Are you 8 years old? Do you know it's fake, right?" Or people who watch wrestling are fucking dumb. Try watching UFC. I don't really have that issue. Most of the people I talk to either used to watch wrestling, or they think maybe it's gotten kind of dumb now, but they still respect it as a sport. They know it's a very difficult thing to do. So no one really says anything like that to me. And if they did, I would just ignore it. I don't really care what other people think. Just Run in LA. Don't you think it's completely unfair that the 8-person tag match got cut from WrestleMania after all the build? I mean, come on, even if you don't like them, it's really sad to me that 8 people got their WrestleMania moment taken away from them like that, especially Sandow, Rhodes, Naomi, and Brodus, who worked all year to get to WrestleMania. Not to mention they have to go out on Raw the very next night and act like everything is fine and dandy. And what about Cesaro not even being mentioned in the same sentence as WrestleMania? It's disappointing for sure, and I know those guys really did work hard. Everybody works hard in WWE. Rhodes and Sandow are really talented. Naomi is a great female wrestler, so it sucks they didn't get their WrestleMania moment. But like I said in my review of Raw the next night, if you had to cut one match, that's the match you cut, and it sucks, but they were short on time, and they let them have the match on Raw, so I guess that's better than nothing. And as far as Cesaro goes, I really hope they can figure out what they want to do with this guy and they don't waste him, because they could do so much with Cesaro. So I'm not too pissed off that he wasn't on WrestleMania, because I do think there's going to be some really big things in his future, and eventually he will be a megastar like CM Punk. Isaiah 1231 CPNYC. Do a pallbearer and Umaga impression, and I don't mean playing dead. Oh, I guess. Oh yes, dead man. And Umaga. I don't know what the hell that would be. Just grunting sounds, right? Brent William Henry. Do you have any college experience? Just curious. I did go to community college here for a few years. In the I think in 2002 to 2004. But I am in the process of going back to school, so I'll probably be going to another college here for the fall semester. Just run in LA. Did you remember when Caitlyn became the #1 contender to Layla's Divas title in September? Well, turns out Eve was supposed to win that #1 contenders match. It was a battle royal and Caitlyn eliminated Eve on accident. Do you recall any other battle royals where someone got eliminated on accident? If so, explain. The only other battle royal I can remember where the guy who was supposed to win got eliminated is in CZW with Nate Hatred. He was supposed to go over. He accidentally, I think, clotheslined someone over the top and went out with them. But he just ran back in and destroyed everybody, and I think they just gave it to him anyway. But CZW did shit like that all the time. But that's the only time I can remember a botched battle royal. I know there was also the whole Shawn Michaels only 1 foot touched, which was planned, and then you had Steve Austin screwing Bret Hart and winning, which always really pissed me off. Brent William Henry, what superhero film are you most anticipating? Avengers 2 probably. Although the new Superman looks pretty good too, but I'd have to say Avengers 2. Actually, you know, the X-Men, the new X-Men reboot is what I'm looking forward to because I really like the X-Men. Would you please consider putting together a weekly or monthly top 10 wrestler power rankings on the Facebook page? Like rank your favorite wrestlers based on performance, potential, popularity, and personal favoritism. That's a pretty good idea. I might be able to do something like that on the Facebook page every month. I don't think that would be take up too much time. Just like my Booker T's Fave 5 or something. Isaiah 1231 CPNYC. What changes would you make to improve the Divas division? Basically just give them more time to get storylines built up so that people care about the matches more and can get invested in it. I don't think there's an issue having one Divas match on Raw, one on SmackDown, and just a few promos to kind of build up the matches. It seems like some weeks, when they even have a Divas match, some weeks they don't even have one, but when they do, you can only see the promo on the app or some shit like that. And I mean, how many people are really watching stuff on the app? I don't even have the app. Brent William Henry. Why does WWE constantly have non-title matches? If the champion wins, why not have the title on the line anyway? And if he loses in a non-title match, it just makes him seem like a shit champion. And what's with if you beat the champion, then you get to face the champion for his title? Can you imagine that in MMA? In the real world, if the challenger beats the champion, then he would automatically be considered the real champion, title or no title. Was this happening in the Attitude Era? Yeah, it's a wrestling thing. I mean, you win the belt, and the person has to earn a shot at the title. They can't just get handed the shot at the title. So they have to either beat a lot of other big-name guys. At least this is how it's supposed to be. They have to beat a lot of other big-name guys to eventually earn a shot at the champion. Then if they can beat the champion, they get a shot at the title. That's how it's supposed to be, but with wrestling, they can flub things and twist things the way they want to make a storyline get over. So it'll change. There's really no official... you only get a title shot if you beat the champion. It's not really an official thing. The only thing that they try to keep official is if you do get a title shot and you beat the champion gets a rematch. That's one thing they do consistently try to keep. But ROH does the same thing. They'll have these proving ground matches And if you win the match and you beat the champion in a proving ground, then you earn a title shot in the future. It's just a wrestling thing. Isaiah1231 CPNYC, tits or ass? I'm a tits guy. Well, I have to say I'm an ass guy. Just Credible 9. Did you like Test? He was great in WWE, amazing in WWE ECW. So what do you think about him? And have you seen his hardcore match with RVD on WWE ECW? And if you have, what did you think? If not, check it out. I never really cared much for Test, to be honest with you. I always thought he was kind of bland and generic. I didn't really like his moveset. And there was something about him, I thought he was kind of lacking charisma. They would put him with girls like Stacy Keibler and stuff like that, but I didn't really think anything helped Test get over with me. I mean, I'm not saying I hate the guy or anything, but I just was never really a fan of Test. And I didn't watch much WWE ECW. I think I watched the very first episode. I was excited they were bringing it back, and after that I knew this was terrible. It's not ECW. And being a huge fan of the original ECW, I couldn't bear to see what they were doing with the name. What titles Brent William Henry, what titles would you scrap in the WWE? Not titties, but titles. I wouldn't scrap any titles. I don't think I would add any titles, even like a hardcore thing. I don't think they have time for it. And in a PG era, what's the point of even having a hardcore title? It's not really going to be hardcore, so. But I like the U.S. title. I like the Intercontinental title. All the belts have a lot of history. I like having 2 world titles, World and WWE. I think that's fine. And you got to have the tag titles, so I don't think anything needs to be scrapped. Daniel Robright, what is your opinion on wrestlers from TNA like Robbie E having to sell autographed items on eBay just so they have some extra money? And who are your 5 favorite wrestlers in TNA right now? That is a really sad question, the whole Robbie E trying to sell autographed stuff to make money. I can't remember where I heard it, possibly on the Wrestling Observer years ago, that ODB was the Knockouts champion, and she had kept her day job working in the mall or something, selling sunglasses at one of those kiosk places, I guess. And people would come up to her and recognize her, and she was the Knockouts champion at the time. I mean, do you know how embarrassing that shit is? And I've heard that the female Knockouts, those girls are really, really underpaid. I heard Madison Rayne and some of these others don't make shit. So it's sad, and it's really not fair because these girls that go out there and wrestle don't make any money, yet I hear Christy Hemme makes 6 figures. It's just TNA doing bullshit. If you were in WWE, you can pull in some big money in TNA, but if you've been with the company for a while, you don't make anything. I mean, I'm sure Magnus doesn't make any money, and a guy like Robbie E, he's on TV. He was on TV like every week, and he still doesn't make any money. It's not fair. And I understand you got to pay guys like Kurt Angle, but I know the Young Bucks. That's why they quit TNA, is they were only getting paid, I think $200, $250 each for a TV show. The Young Bucks. And because TNA wasn't using them and they weren't on TV for a lot of weeks, they weren't making any money. And they weren't allowed to go to indies. So they were like, fuck this. We gotta eat. We're gonna go back to the indies where we can make some money. So TNA is just dumb as shit. And that really fucking pisses me off. I mean, pay your guys, you fucking pricks. Give Hogan all this fucking money to do nothing. Who are my 5 favorite wrestlers in TNA right now? Probably Christopher Daniels and Kazarian. Austin Aries, Bobby Roode. I like Zema Ion a lot. Yeah, just guys like Bully Ray is a great heel. Alright, last question. That's a crazy name. He asked, why don't you review NXT? That's just too much wrestling for me personally. I am already watching 3 hours of Raw, 2 of SmackDown, 2 of TNA, 1 of Ring of Honor, and some Sundays, 3 hours of a pay-per-view. So that's just a lot of wrestling to watch, and I just don't want to watch NXT on top of all of that. I try to do a few other things like movie reviews and stuff like that, and I'd rather try to focus on doing a little bit something different instead of so much wrestling every week. Which is the same reason I don't watch Main Event or the Saturday Morning Slam or any of that stuff. Insane Tombstone 98. Which is a better wrestling, not entertainment company, WWE or TNA? A better wrestling company, not entertainment company. Well, really neither of those. I mean, the best wrestling companies are companies like Ring of Honor, PWG, stuff on the indies. But out of those two, oh man. I mean, I can't really... It's tough because TNA, the past few weeks I've been complaining that they only have 3-4 matches on a 2-hour show. So that's not wrestling. And WWE, they've been putting on more matches. They have 3 hours, but they've been putting on a lot of matches. Excuse me, longer matches. They've been giving stuff more time on Raw. And on SmackDown, they've been having consistent matches too. So I have to say WWE right now is putting on more wrestling than the Impact Wrestling Matters show. And just because TNA has great wrestlers like AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, and Austin Aries does not mean they're a better wrestling company. I mean, WWE has some great wrestlers too. You can watch some of these tag matches recently with The Shield versus Team Hell No or whatever, and they can put on some good matches. I guess it's all about style, really, that you prefer. Have you seen Mick Foley's latest documentary DVD? It's really good. I haven't seen that yet. I want to check it out soon, though, because I hear great things about it. Who's had a better 2013 so far? WWE, TNA, or Ring of Honor? And what was the last WWE event you went to? Will you ever do a house tour? People have been asking for a house tour type video for a while, but I may do something like that in the future. And I have not been to a WWE event, period. It's just too damn expensive. I mean, unless you want to get nosebleed seats, and then what's the point? Who's had a better 2013? I guess I have to say WWE. I think they had a lot of buzz for WrestleMania, of course, and I mean, how can any company have a better year than WWE? Really, Ring of Honor's done some cool stuff with Scum, but it doesn't look like it's really changed anything company-wise for their business. And TNA's been going down in the ratings, actually. So, I have to say WWE. And if it's just stuff I enjoy watching, then I have to say WWE has had a pretty good year so far. I do like the Scum stuff in Ring of Honor, but WWE has had some good matches this year. And they've really been pushing the Shield, which I enjoy watching. So I still have to go with WWE. Even though I do really like Ring of Honor at the same time. Brent William Henry, who is your favorite horror film protagonist? Examples would be Dr. Samuel Loomis, Ash Williams, Tommy Jarvis, or Deputy Sheriff Dewey Riley. And do you miss the 90s? Protagonist has to be Ash Williams. I mean, how do you top Ash? And yeah, I do miss the 90s because it was just a really cool era with the whole grunge thing, with Nirvana and stuff like that. We had some great cartoons with the X-Men animated show, Ninja Turtles, Super Nintendo, just tons and tons of great stuff in the 90s. And now you watch TV and the only cartoons are stuff like SpongeBob, which has been running forever. And it feels like Saturday morning cartoons aren't even the same. I feel sorry for kids nowadays. I mean, they don't have all the great shows like Salute Your Shorts and stuff we got to grow up watching. Wrestling was great. It was the start of the Attitude Era. I mean, the 90s were awesome. Seinfeld was on. Married with Children was on. Great movies. Could go on forever. Just Credible 9 can talk about how the hardcore title and how it would help the current WWE roster. I really liked the hardcore title. I thought it was a great way to use the mid-card guys in the Attitude Era. But I don't really think it would help the current roster because we are in a PG era. And when you're in a PG era, you can't really do anything hardcore. So what's the purpose of having the hardcore title? I mean, you're not really going to use it. So it's kind of just, it would just be a waste. I think if they brought back the hardcore division and kind of allowed them to do stuff a little more extreme, they could get in some fans that like that stuff. I mean, they're kind of catering to a certain audience. There are a lot of people who love death matches and stuff like myself, and plus it's different. However, I just don't see them doing it. And if they brought it back, it would be a half-assed attempt. Just Run in LA. What do you think was the best feud in Ring of Honor? Ring of Honor's had some great feuds. Let's see how many more questions I have here. Kevin Steen versus El Generico was awesome. But one of the best things I think Ring of Honor ever did was the Summer of Punk. When CM Punk was leaving for WWE and everybody knew it, he signed his contract on the world title for Ring of Honor. That was probably the best thing they've done. Who are the top 5 best wrestlers that were in Ring of Honor but never in WWE or TNA? NXT doesn't count. So if they're in NXT, technically that doesn't mean they've ever been in WWE, I guess you mean. So I guess Chris Hero is probably up there. Davey Richards, the Briscoe brothers, Kevin Steen, Eddie Edwards. Who else in Ring of Honor? Try not to pick any. Low Key was in WWE. Homicide was in TNA. I'm just going through the champions. But yeah, all the guys, you can tell when you watch Ring of Honor who's going to get picked up and who's going to be brought to WWE eventually. When you see guys like Mike Bennett, like Adam Cole, you know eventually they'll be going there. And I actually heard Davey Richards was asked to go to developmental. He tried out, and he realized he didn't want to be on the road like that, so he kind of turned it down. Isaiah1231 CPNYC, who would you like to see make a return to WWE and TNA? I think it would be kind of cool to see Jay Lethal back in TNA. And for WWE, and I have another one, and for some sick reason I'd like to see Raven back in TNA. Even though I know he'd be incredibly out of shape, I'd still like to see him back there. And a return to WWE, it would be cool to see Steve Austin come back, work a angle with Punk. It would be cool to see Batista come back for a little bit. Trying to think of some recent guys. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody. WWE really doesn't seem to get rid of their bigger stars. Like, you got John Morrison. He quit. He would also be a cool guy to see return. But Morrison quit the company. He left. And when you have WWE that keeps guys like Yoshitatsu, I think Ezekiel Jackson's still under contract, Mason Ryan, and they're never going to use these guys, and they still haven't fired them, then what typically happens is, say you have a guy like Damian Sandow, and eventually they just stop using Sandow. He becomes more of a job guy, and then more of a job guy, more of a job guy. Then he's only on Main Event, he's only on Superstars, he's only on Saturday Morning Slam, and he's still losing matches. Then eventually he may get fired. But it's not like they just say, you know, this week we're firing Damian Sandow. They tend to keep people who are on TV around for a while, and they can get a good career out of them, even if they're going to use them as job guys. Like R-Truth, he hasn't really been doing much of anything, and he's in no danger of being fired. They still have JTG. Isaiah 1231 CPNYC. You're... Oh wait, this is a conversation here. Let me see the question. Brent William Henry, who is the overall better talent as a pro wrestler between Sheamus and Kofi Kingston? I had to say Sheamus, because Kofi Kingston, even though the fans do like him, and he does get a good pop when he comes out, I don't think Kofi Kingston's selling merch. I don't think Kofi Kingston's going above the level he's at right now. Where he's at is pretty much where he's going to stay. Even if they turn him heel, I don't know if it's going to help him or not. I just don't see Kofi Kingston going any further. And with Sheamus, and even though he's a great wrestler, Kofi, Sheamus is a really great wrestler. For a guy his size, he can go out there and put on some great matches. He tries to do some new things when he's in the ring. He's got something about him. Fans like him. He sells merch. He's just a talented guy in the ring and on the microphone. So I think Sheamus is the better talent overall. Just running LA. Do you think Kofi Kingston has taken Shelton Benjamin's place as being the best pure athlete in the WWE? I guess you could say that. He does kind of have that Shelton Benjamin thing going on where he's just stuck in the mid-card and cannot seem to get out of it. But as far as just athletes in WWE, there's a ton of guys who are just amazing athletes. SmackDown's coming on right now, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I think Kofi really needs a heel turn, and that's just to keep him fresh. I still don't see him really rising out of the mid-card, but maybe they can do something to keep his character going strong, because at this point, people are just going to stop believing Kofi even has a shot, and they won't care about his matches anymore. So they got to do something to keep the guy looking strong so fans can at least still buy into him. Brent William Henry, why doesn't an African American ever win the WWE Championship or even the World Heavyweight Championship? Who would they push if they went that route? I can't really say why. I guess it's just they haven't had a guy that they've felt strongly enough who happened to be black that they wanted to put the WWE title on. Bobby Lashley was kind of that guy for a while. Booker T has won the world title. And I think if they were going to put the world title on someone new, it would probably be Big E Langston. I can see winning the world title very soon. I think he's going to end up feuding with Dolph Ziggler, and they're going to put the world title on Big E. Isaiah 1231 CPNYC, what are your aspirations in life? Well, I like doing the YouTube thing, and my overall goal would be to eventually have maybe my own website, something like the Wrestling Observer, but not just focused on wrestling, but also other things like wrestling, movies, video games, manga, things like that. Just something kind of like the Nostalgia Critic has. That would be kind of my overall goal, where I want to go with this. Dakota Pullen. My question is, who's going to win at WrestleMania? Rock or Cena? LOL, just kidding. But my serious question is, when you eventually get done with The Hills Have Eyes, what series do you plan to do next? I actually try to keep that a surprise. So what I want to do is I've ordered the new posters. So the next series, you will find out what it is when I upload the first video in that series. So probably next week if possible, if the posters show up. If not, the following week I will do the review of the first movie in this new series. And then when I upload the video, the new posters will be there and everything. So I kind of like to keep it a surprise. Just run in LA. At the end of the week, after you upload the SmackDown review, can you do another video and compare all 4 of the wrestling reviews? Raw, SmackDown, TNA, Ring of Honor. You did, and say which was the worst and which was the best for each week. I don't know if I would ever do anything like that, just because I don't know how long I could make a video like that. And I try to upload stuff that's at least 3 minutes, if not longer. I don't even like uploading 3-minute videos, but some weeks for like Ring of Honor Road Rage, for example, I have no choice. But I also don't really like to compare the companies. I don't think it's fair. When you upload a wrestling video, you always have something that was said on that show at the end of your uploaded video. Uploaded video title. How do you decide what to put? Basically, when I try to add a title to the video, I just go through the notes and I look for anything that stands out to me. Anything that was funny or something about the show. But some weeks, it'll just, like somebody will say something really stupid or something dumb will happen, and I'll just write it down. I'll be like, that's the title right there. Who were better heels, Lay Cool or the Beautiful People, and what was your favorite Divas and Knockout storyline? Divas and Knockout storyline. Well, I know the Beautiful People, or Lay Cool, was supposed to be based off of the Beautiful People, but I really like both teams. I still have to go with Lay Cool, though. I really like them together. And storylines, I guess in WWE, the first one that comes to mind is Piggy James. It was alright, I guess. The Mickie James lesbian angle with Trish Stratus. Sable's feud with Jacqueline is one I remember. Knockout storyline, I like a lot of stuff they've done with ODB. That one angle was terrible where it was Winter and she had like Angelina Love who was possessed. She was turned into a zombie or something. Just that one was horrible. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a ODB storyline or something with Awesome Kong and Gil Kim. Who's your favorite Divas Not storyline? Dakota Pullen, where do you watch the pay-per-views, and are you going to do something special for the 1000th video? Yeah, I'll probably try to do something really special for that, like maybe a video where I drive around town and show where I live, or maybe then I'll do the room tour, something like that, to show my crib. And where do I watch the pay-per-views? Well, I watch them on my laptop for Ring of Honor because it's internet pay-per-view, and I always buy their shows. And for WWE TNA stuff, I'm just going to say I have a friend who orders all the pay-per-views and I watch them at his house. How's that? Awesome 388 full. Who do you think WWE and TNA doesn't use properly? Well, WWE doesn't use Dolph Ziggler properly. They haven't been using Wade Barrett properly. They haven't been using Randy Orton properly. TNA, I would say Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. They should be better than the tag division. A weak-ass tag division. And really, those two guys and Bad Influence are the only thing keeping that tag division alive. That's the only reason people even give a slight shit about it. So maybe use those guys better. And the X Division. The X Division, they haven't been using properly in years. I mean, Kenny King, Zema Ion, Chris Sabin, they have all these talented guys, and they really haven't been doing enough with them. This year has been an improvement, but I don't have faith in them to keep it up. Anime Watcher 8062. I know that I asked only 2 questions back, but when are you going to start doing Let's Plays walkthroughs? It can make your channel bigger and better. When I do Let's Plays and walkthroughs and stuff, I'll have to create a second channel because I've got 700 videos on this channel. I do not want to take the risk of having my channel get deleted over some copyrighted bullshit like a Super Nintendo game. So I'll probably start a second channel, probably with a buddy of mine, and we'll go through and play some games and kind of do some commentary on it, like the Two Best Friends Play series, Game Grumps, Continue Show. Those are some video game channels that I really enjoy watching. And last question is Just Run in LA. Who has a better entrance theme to fit them? The Shield, Aces and Eights, or Scum? I really like the Scum theme, but I think, oh man, Shield theme is great for the Shield, and Aces and Eights works for Aces and Eights, but I have to say the Shield is my favorite because it's a great song for their gimmick. It just kind of pumps you up. It's got the drums in the background. I really like that, and it just works for the Shield. Aces and Eights have a great theme for them, but I think what hurts it is they always come out multiple times on a show. So you hear the theme over and over again, and I think that actually kind of hurts it a little bit. I guess you could say the same thing about the NWO though, so I don't know, but I have to go with the Shield. All 3 are great songs though. I even like the Aces and Eights music. So anyways, that is it. Those are all the questions for this Q&A. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this. I'm going to do the next Q&A of video 800. I almost forgot what number I was on for a second there. And yeah, for some reason YouTube does this thing where the video manager has a different number. So that's the count I go by because I'm pretty sure that's correct. And sometimes YouTube will glitch it, and the number of videos it says I have on my actual video is wrong. So that's probably why the first Q&A part 1 will say like 703 or something like that, I think it is. But yeah, at 800 videos I'll be doing another Q&A. So somewhere around 750 I'll come out with an update video where you guys can leave questions for that Q&A if you want to. But I had a great time doing this Q&A, a lot of great questions. And I wanted to go ahead and get this up quick because I still have to do the TNA review and SmackDown and stuff like that. And I wanted to go ahead and get the Q&A out first because it was, after those horror movies, it was time for the 700th video. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching this, and thanks for watching.